Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the show. I have a lovely guest for you today, and I'm just going to dive right in and introduce her, and then we're going to get into this really great conversation. So, for those of you who know me a little bit, you may know that most of these interviews that we do are because they're not all crafted. They're very organic. And most of the time, I'm asking the questions that I'm super curious about, and I'm hoping that means that you're super curious about them as well. So let's just dive in here. I have a really interesting guest for you today. Her name is Daphne Wells, and let me tell you just a little bit about her. She helps owners, senior managers, and leaders of small businesses choose to work and improve their employee productivity by 30% or more in 111 days with less or no drama. When she's not out inspiring women around the globe to rewrite the rules of business leadership, you're going to find her creating magic with fabric and threads, getting her hands dirty, growing what she eats, and frolicking in the waves near her home in deep south of the beautiful South Island of New Zealand. Daphne, welcome to the show. I am so looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, Candy, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and looking forward to our conversation too.
Yeah, so you and I just met last week. And so I only invite people onto the show that when I've had this conversation, I'm like, oh, what an interesting person. So I'm so looking forward to the conversation. We were talking just before we hit record about this idea to do with alignment. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with alignment and what it means to you?
Alignment to me means that your heart, your soul, and your mind all agree. And when they don't, we need to realign, or I need to realign. Let's do it personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really does come down to, because when they don't and we're doing everything out of our head, that's when we get overwhelmed. That's when we burn out. That's when we feel stressed. And believe me, I've done all of those many times, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so alignment has become very important to me and for my clients as well.
So would you call it a value now? Like, is that something that you lean on in that way?
That's an interesting question. I don't identify it as one of my values, because I do also work with my clients to make sure that what they choose to do is aligned with their values. So agree is an agreement with their values, supports them.
So it's more of a verb other than more of an
Yes,
action, right?
it's more
Yeah.
of an action, more of a principle and an
Mm.
action rather than a value.
So what do you notice? Like, what does aligned feel like, and what does it not feel like? Let's go there.
Interesting.
Hmm.
How how it feels like, and I often relate it back to. Do you remember the nursery rhyme when we were kids? He was a crooked man and he walked a crooked mile. He
Yes.
found a crooked and he walked it. Anyway, the rest is gone. But you know what I mean? Like I picture that character that we saw in the pictures of being really, you know, body out of alignment. And we know from when we have injured our bodies that that's painful to walk around like that. Like it stresses your body, right? And
Hmm.
so it feels like that on an energetic, emotional level.
Hmm. And then aligned. What does aligned feel like?
Aligned feels like your body is in sync. Like, as I said before, your head, heart, and your soul agree. So you're not fighting against yourself.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And for me, I think being out of aligned shows up when I'm in my overthinking mode or when I have this thing where I get kind of like my nose to the grindstone. So it's like I'm hyper focused on creating tasks, like finishing tasks, being busy with work, but it's like it's so focused on the doing and less on the being. So those are the two ways that I notice it really shows up for me. And then aligned shows up in a way that feels smooth.
Mm-hmm.
It feels, I'll say easy, but I think it's more ease. I can feel ease with it. And I just had a really interesting conversation with somebody, and he referred to it as sailing. Like when you're sailing, that, like there is effort that goes in, you're adjusting, but you're really being in tune with what's going on around you. And it's quite fluid and organic. It's not rigid. And when you were talking about the crooked man, crooked mile fairy tale riddle, that's the thing that I was thinking is it feels very rigid and like we only want to go on sharp angles. We can't just sort of flow. It's really
And that
it,
overworking that you were talking about is like your head telling you you have to keep going, you have to do, you have to, and that the being so task focused, as you said, you're all focusing on the doing rather than the being.
right,
And
right,
another way I talk about it too is in reference to the sailing image. It's like when you're aligned, it's like you're floating down the river on a kayak. You're not having to paddle furiously, rather than when you're going upstream against a raging torrent. And you've got to get there, otherwise, you're going to get swept out to sea on this river, right? So you're paddling away furiously. And it is, as you said, it's really taking a lot of hard work to get there.
right.
It's a grind. You're pushing yourself rather than, as you said, the ease. I often refer to it as effortless. Not no, not effort none, but it feels like you're not efforting hard.
Right. So say the word again. Effortly? Is that what you said?
Effortless, effortless.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
That
And we
makes
can, it's like easily versus ease. Effortless. You're not putting in no effort.
right.
You're not overexerting either.
There's a sweet spot there.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that ease you referred to it as, that's a sweet spot too, because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means
No.
it feels like that sailing, like you're carrying on. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there is energy going in there, but it's not harsh and it's not rigid and it's not stuck. There's an allowing happening there too.
And it is an interplay of that doing and being. I love how you brought that into the conversation because the energy behind it, who we're being, and that's where, head, heart, and soul agreeing, that's your heart and your soul coming in. That's your being. And when they're agreeing and on track with your head, that's when your doing and being are working together.
Right. And that's something, thinking about the kinds of people that you work with, that's something that it takes a bit of doing to learn how to do that. Because if you've always been a high achiever and you're, a leader in some area, you get so caught up in the deliverables, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's like you don't feel that you can trust or have the faith that you can go into that place of alignment.
Mm.
So that creates a whole cycle of things. Now, one of the things that I know that you work with is numerology. And we also talked about this a little bit before we hit record about how do we use numerology as a way to promote alignment. And I'm also thinking maintain alignment. Yeah.
Yeah. So numerology is the energy that you bring into the world. It's who you are at your core. And when we calculate that from your date of birth and read that, so then you know whether you're a, what your birth code is and what your birth card is. And when you're working with those and aligned with those and being who you're here to be, it's easier, simpler to be in alignment because you're not having to try things out and say, does this fit for me? Does that fit for me? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, I find, I know for myself, when I received my first numerology reading, I was kind of in that place of, who am I? What am I doing here? You know, I was ready for change in my life and I was tired of that overworking, that grind, that, oh, well, let's go and try this, let's go and try that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it really, for me, I remember that feeling of feeling like I'd just come home into my body, like I could finally relax and be me. I had permission to be me.
Right.
And I watch clients experience that as well. And so then the deeper you go into it, you know that you can be you. You have permission to be you.
And in fact, it's the only thing to be is you, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So how does somebody start with that? So I have no idea who's listening to the show today. If they're going, huh, your number and a card, how does somebody start?
How does somebody start? Well, you can calculate using adding all the digits of your date of birth together,
Okay.
and then you come up with a number, right? And your actual date of birth has a birth card from the regular playing deck of cards.
Okay.
And those symbols have been used for eons.
Okay.
They're in
So
all
let's do an example. Today
yeah,
is January 16th, 2025. So somebody who is born on January 16th, 2025. Now for you, you're in New Zealand, so it's January 17th, but I hope you're okay to play along with me from your yesterday.
I am. So somebody born today
Mhm.
is going to be a birth code 8 because we take the 1 from January, we take the 1 and the 6 from 16, we take the 2, the 0, the 2, and the 5 from 25, and that all adds to 17. And then we're looking for a digit between 2 and 11.
Okay.
And so we add the 1 and the 7 together, and that comes down to 8.
Okay. So that's your what do you call that? Your life path number or something
Well,
like that?
some schools of numerology call it your life card number. Some schools call it your ruling number. I don't like being controlled by anything or ruled by anything, so I call it your birth code.
Okay. So if this is an 8, what does it mean? Like, there's obviously if we're going between 2 and 11, there's kind of 10 numbers. So 10% of the population have the same number, right?
They do. And there also is underlying there a whole grid. Like this is just top layer stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we're looking at today, right? So
Mhm.
if you are an 8, you think about the symbol of the 8. You want to be in flow. It's the only numeral that doesn't have a start or an end point. So somebody with an 8 birth code ideally wants to be in flow. They're always going to be in momentum. They're always going to be in action. And yet we have choice, right? I always refer to it as this is the energy you bring into the world. And you can be at this end of the pendulum swing of what's possible, or you can be at that end. So at one end, you can be in flow, on task, keeping going, and you're doing, sorry, there's bugs in my house today. You're doing and you're being are all aligned, as we talked about before. And so you're just going through the motions. You're going to find it, you're going to just keep going and love being You're going to be dedicated, you're going to be committed. At the other end of the pendulum, it's possible for an 8 birth code to get stuck in one of those bubbles.
Okay.
Because 8 energy really wants to bring the seen and the unseen together and bring them both into the party, which is that doing and being we were talking about. And so if they get stuck in that doing, what are they going to do? They're going to overwork, they're going to get overwhelmed, they're going to get stressed like we talked about before.
Right.
So in terms of them as, they really are independent and dependable. They're committed. An 8 person is not going to let you down.
Okay. And then a person who is an 8, I get it. I mean, like with every school of thought, there is always, this is the surface level and there's much more depth to it. They're always going to be in movement. Their goal is to be in the movement of flow as opposed to the stuck movement of either the seen or the unseen, almost, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's where they can get hung up, and that's where life can move more easily for them. So do you have an experience of somebody who is an 8 that really opened up a new perspective for them? Anything that you could share with us?
Well, it really gives, yes, one particular person, she was really stuck in her head. She was there all the time. She was doing that doing and being and constantly burning out, right? So when she brought more of the other aspects of herself, more of those unseen aspects, connected with her soul more, that she then was in flow more and actually found she got more done.
Interesting. So in the end, it's not about squishing more into your day and breaking it up into 6-minute increments. It's more about the quality of the work that you do. Right. And
Yeah.
then, so
that is much more important because the energy that you bring into any situation actually has more impact than the actions you take.
right, right. I love it. Yeah,
Mm.
that really makes me think. So then also there's a playing card
Yeah,
associated with it.
a playing card.
So what would that be?
So 16th of January is the Jack of Diamonds.
Okay.
So Jack of Diamonds really, he will persist. He will keep going. He will try everything he can. He can be really successful. They have really good Jack of Energy. Jack of Diamonds energy has really good persuasive qualities. So, into a work environment, they could be really good at selling or whatever like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jack energy also brings in a teenage kind of aspect, that immaturity. They want to be an adult and they're sometimes not willing to do the work it takes to get there or to grow up enough, so there's a whole lot that is possible there for the Jack of Diamonds. They're very playful, very, very innovative and creative.
So interesting. So, you take these sort of two kinds of qualities and you put them together as a bit of a guide for somebody. And you can see how playful, but maybe a little bit immature or a little bit naive, but very influential is what it sounds like.
Yes.
But then always in motion, and being cautious of the quality of the motion and where their focus is to stay in that balance. And so that sounds like, I know that this sounds kind of funny, but it's almost like for me to be satisfied in my career, these are the qualities of the things that I want in my career. And then, but you could do that in almost any job. It's a matter of
Exactly.
how, right? Like it's not saying you've got
Yeah.
to be a bookkeeper or you have to be a coach. It's like, this is my approach to being the best version.
And this is the beauty of numerology, is that it really helps you, what work am I here to do? What energy am I here to bring to the world? How am I here to help people?
Mm.
And then I can choose that and marry that with my skills and what I love to do. And as you say, choose any job I want and take that energy to it.
That's so interesting. So these people who come to work with you, is this sort of the first like the first approach about how you work with them is you would go into at least this high level and help them to understand themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
Do you do that before anything? Like, is this like ground zero for where you would start with somebody?
It is ground zero for where I start with somebody, unless they have an urgent situation in their workplace that we need to address first. Because when I work with people, we always want to be addressing the practical things that are going on and there's other things behind the scenes. We want to work together on them. Because what I don't want somebody coming to work with me is thinking, oh, we have to do all this work before we start applying that. For
Yeah.
me, my personality, the gifts I bring are really about let's marry the practical and the intuitive and bring them together and do a little bit of each so that we're constantly making progress in both areas.
Hmm, that's really interesting. And so this is, what you described for yourself or for this fictional person that's born today, January 16th, 2025, is this is their path to alignment, essentially.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And they're the only ones that can know if their mind, their head, heart, and spirit are aligned while they're doing the work. So there's like, it's like it's like balancing, but it's more than it's not on it's not a teeter-totter kind of balancing. It's more like a I don't know, multiple points of balancing.
It's like a dance. If you think about it in a dance, if you're
Mm,
dancing with a partner, you've got your
right.
partner you're dancing with, you've got to be aware of what's going on there. You've got to be aware of your own body. You've got to be aware of the other couples around you. You've got to be aware of the music and how it changes. So
Right.
this is really the being aware of all these aspects of yourself.
Nice. Oh, I love that. That's so great. And I love the metaphor of the dance. That's really helpful. And
Because
especially
it
since,
makes it really playful then too, doesn't it?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
well, I'm dancing through life. What tune am I dancing to today?
right. And the concept of balance within this is that balance is never static, right?
Mm.
Like there's always, even if there's a place of pause in the dance, there's a tension. There's either the tension in how you're holding the energy or what's coming next or the breath or whatever, right? So there's always activity, but it's always moving. Oh, that's so
Yes,
cool.
yeah. And the
So
anticipation, when there's a pause in the dance, you're never sure how long that pause is for.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Unless it's choreography. But then, even then, it's how do you
Yeah,
hold that space in the pause,
true.
right?
Yes, yes.
So that is so interesting. So what have I not asked you? Like you're the expert in this, and I've just asked you questions that make me curious. But what have I not asked you that's important for people to know?
Well, one continuation of that conversation we just had is, this fictional person born today, how can they then apply that into their work? As a leader or a business owner, how do you then take that into the workplace and have that impact how you are as a leader, how you show up, how you lead your team? And for me and my clients, that can be a whole learning process because it's about we've been told to lead in a particular way. This is how you manage your team. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And yet, sometimes, oftentimes, it's not aligned for the person in that leadership position. And the way that they're trying to lead one of their staff members is not right for that staff member. And that can be that tension you talked about that
Right.
shows up in an unpositive way. So that's another aspect of the work that I do with people is really helping them practically apply that into their workplace situation.
Mm, okay. So there's the other question that I've been sort of is in the back of my mind is the idea that numerology can feel a little woo, right? And yet you've got it paired in a business environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you find that the people who come to you for help are either at their wits' end because they're so frustrated. They've tried everything. And now it's just like, okay, well, maybe this will help. Or are they just people who are very curious and woo curious, and they would just come to you because it's like, what a neat combination. I wonder how this might work. So what
Yeah,
do
a
you
little
find?
bit of both, a little bit of both, really. And numerology, we have been led to believe it's quite woo, and yet it's mathematic. It's based on mathematical formulas,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, and so you can't even, like your accountants, your managers, your whatever, you can't second guess something that's based on a mathematical scientific equation.
mm,
To me, it's more accurate than, and I'm not criticizing any of the other personality assessments that are out there, because a lot of them are based on the questions and how we answer them, and
right.
we answer them situationally. If we answer them a different way, we might get a different answer. And in my search for finding out who I am, I've actually done that and got different answers.
Mm.
And so for me, the certainty that it's just derived from your date of birth, that you can't second guess.
And the
And
thing that
so,
you said, that when you found your number, it just felt like coming home.
yeah,
And that is
yeah,
something that just sounds so reassuring to an individual who's living in 2025. Like, these are weird times. There's so much going on. The more that people can really feel like they're centered in themselves and they're at home, the better we will be, right?
and I believe it is our responsibility to be at home in ourselves and to be ourselves in the world rather than who society tells us to be.
Right, right. And then the other piece that I'm curious about is, so we have this fictitious individual born January 16th, 2025, and they have these characteristics that come together. And then tomorrow is another day, but it's January 17th, 2025. What's appropriate for that next day for this individual? So you've got the interaction of the day that it actually is, the year that it actually is, with your unique profile.
Yes, well, your unique profile is always going to be appropriate for you. It's how you align it um, with the universal energy that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, today for you, we'll use your day, January 16th, is a universal energy in numerology, an 8 energy day. And so, we're all experiencing 8 energy today. And then we move into 9 energy tomorrow. And so it's this beautiful interplay. And this is where numerology is not a one and done thing. It's not a thing that you can just Google and get an answer and that's it forever.
Right.
Um, it is and some clients work very deeply with me and amongst that and look at also, you have um, different energy come to help you personally each year on your birthday.
Mm.
You have a different path for that year with the cards. And so you have, as we grow and transform through life, we have different work to do each year, different energy, different growth path. And when we know that, and this is the deeper work that I do with one-on-one clients, it's really knowing what path are you on this year? What are you here to achieve this year? When we really go into that deeply, that is just super helpful. That ease that we were talking about before just becomes more easeful.
Mm. Yeah.
So there are numerous, like so deep.
Mm-hmm. But not, you don't have to go deep to get some good
No,
value too, right?
no, you
So,
don't.
yeah, so
No,
there
you
is value
don't.
for anybody in that system.
There is value for anybody, and even one reading with me.
Hmm.
And it's up to the individual, obviously, how deep they want to go.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, Daphne. Gosh, you really opened my mind to a lot of different ideas. And I can I have all kinds of questions, but today we've covered enough. Can you tell people how can they find out more about you? And I believe you've got a free gift to offer the audience as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I do. Yes, yes. So they can find me at my website, which is my name, daphnewells.com.
Okay.
And I have a free gift for you, which is about how decoding leadership. Because as we talked before, the way that we lead is often prescribed to us by society, by how we've learned through our education. And yet when we lead in our own style, we are so much more influential and it's so much easier for us to do it. So I have a guide there that will help you work out your leadership style.
Interesting. Cool. All right. And I'll make sure to put all those links with the episode notes. And so people can just go and click through and get their decoding leadership guide from you and find out more about you. Gosh, I've enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for showing up. And I learned a lot. I'm feeling quite contemplative about this, the interaction of all the different parts. It really has given me kind of a new appreciation for the little tiny bit that I knew about numerology, and also bringing it back to the alignment and how powerful it can be for somebody to be in their aligned place and show up as a leader. And just it sounds like it's just so much easier and so much more less stressful and really true to them, like more satisfying as well. I think it really sounds like an amazing approach. Really appreciate having you. Any last words before we sign off for today?
Well, you summed it up beautifully, and thank you so much for having me. I've loved our conversation too. And I
Oh,
believe that us being in alignment, which I know is part of the work that you do, is just so important in these times that are changing so much.
wonderful. Oh gosh, that's so great. Okay. All right, everyone. That is the episode for this week. And if you're anything like me, you're probably going to hit replay and go, I need to listen to that again. So, my wonderful guest was Daphne Wells, and I'll make sure to include all of her details in the episode notes so you can go and find out more about her and her approach and learn more about numerology and how it might support you in your growth. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be. Hey, it's Candy, and I am so glad you're here. Thanks again for tuning in and listening to this episode. Now, before you go, don't forget to take my How to Find Your Best Coaching Niche quiz. You can find it at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Talk to you soon.